Welcome to your Get That Nugget for GCSE English Literature. Today we're going to be focusing on giving you the information that you need to enable you to hit Assessment Objective 3 on your English Literature paper, specifically focusing on Lord of the Flies. And it's not just about giving you that information, it is about giving you the way to use that information. This session is here to complement your lessons with your teacher and not in any way to replace them. So, Lord of the Flies was written by William Golding, and Golding served during World War II. He was immensely affected by what he had seen and experienced during the war, and he recognised that potentially that meant there was evil within everyone. He was then also living and writing during the Cold War and that idea of conflict across the globe, and it's as a result of this that Lord of the Flies is actually set during a nuclear war. So we have Golding as an officer affected by what he saw. And at the start of the novel, when the boys essentially crash onto the island, it becomes clear to us that outside of that island, outside of what could be a sort of utopia, the whole world is at war and the whole world is being destroyed. Now, the idea that there was evil in everyone deeply affected Golding. He felt that before there was a civilization, people were civilized human beings. What he's seen has affected that and made him feel as though civilization is just an illusion. If the atrocities that were committed during World War II were possible, it meant that within all of us, we had that capacity for violence, that capacity for evil, that capacity for death. Within that, you also have the idea of social class, and when Golding's writing, we still have quite a class-based system. The idea that upper classes weren't capable of that, weren't capable of evil and violence, was completely turned on its head by his experience of the war. And so Golding was driven to write a book that looked at that theory, that looked at where evil comes from, what evil can do, and how we manage it all. And some of that is based upon the writings of Kant and Augustine, both of whom believed that evil existed within all humans. Augustine particularly believed that that was as a direct result of original sin. And as a result of original sin, we all had evil within us that we had to try and manage. The counter-argument to this comes from Sigmund Freud, who believes that we are all blank slates and that we are affected by our surroundings and upbringing. And what we see in Lord of the Flies is also a sort of playing out of his personality theory. Freud suggested that all of us are made up of three parts of our personality. So the id, which is our childish desires, the bit of us that's uncontrolled, the bit of us that society has nothing to do with. It is impulsive. You then have the superego, which is essentially society and rules. So we behave in a certain way because society tells us to, and our superego controls that within us. All of that feeding into our ego, which balances the two. And so at the start of the novel, all of the children are sitting here. They're sitting in their ego. They understand what's wrong and what's right. They understand how society works, and they behave accordingly. The longer they're on the island and the further away they are from society and civilization, the smaller and smaller the superego becomes, so that the id takes over. Now, Piggy, Ralph, Simon all still maintain that idea of the superego, all still maintain the idea of civilization and society. The choir throw away that sort of illusion or cloak of civilization really quickly, and their savagery starts to take over. And what we see is, in the novel, a situation where all the boys initially are perfectly well behaved, understand how to function in society, and the further away they get from society and the longer they are separated from society and civilization, the more their savagery comes out. And that plays into the theories of Kant and Augustine and that idea of evil living within all of us. Because even at the end, we start to see Ralph changing slightly. We start to see Ralph becoming savage, becoming uncontrollable. And so Golding shows us a world where if we remove rules, we end up with chaos, violence and savagery. However, because of the way he structures the novel, there is still the suggestion, there is still the hope that society can be saved. Throughout the novel, the boys get increasingly savage, the boys get increasingly violent. And at the end, just when they become their most violent, is when they are rescued. And they are rescued by someone who is a symbol of rules and society. They are rescued by someone in a uniform, someone who represents protection and hierarchy. And it is at this point that Ralph breaks down in tears, because he has recognised just how close to the edge they have all got, just how close to being completely irredeemable they have all become. And so Golding is showing us that this could happen to any of us, this could happen to all of us. We have a range of boys, nearly all of them from the upper classes with the exception of Piggy, and even they are able to become savage. So Golding is suggesting that class and nationality is no dictator in terms of whether you are savage, whether you are evil. He very much holds to the theories of Kant and Augustine, that evil is in all of us and we have to work incredibly hard to manage that. So what I would like you to do is think about why Golding chooses to have the boys rescued when they are at their most savage. Why has it taken them to get this far, and why is it at that point that Golding chooses to end the story? Is he making a statement about the fact that the world is savable, or is he making a statement about the fact that all of us have the capacity to be savage? That is a choice, and both answers could be true, but I just want you to write a couple of paragraphs explaining what you think about the timing of the boys' rescue.